Hi, I'm Roberta. Welcome to my kitchen. This month we're in Singapore and today I'm going to teach you how to make a fried chili paste called Sambal Goreng. It is such a good base for so many dishes. We'll be using it in our rojak, in our mee goreng, and I always serve some on the side with my sambal skate. In fact, it stores well, it's very versatile, it's worth making up a big batch and keeping it in the fridge to serve alongside everything. Now in Malaysia there is a dish called Sambal Goreng, which is a stir fry of vegetables made with a chili paste like this, but today we're talking simply about the chili paste. It's super easy. It's some dried red chilies, some onion, some garlic, a little bit of tamarind liquid, and there is a separate video showing you how to make your tamarind liquid, and some tomato paste. A little bit of oil, salt and pepper, fried up together, and away we go. The first thing we need to do is get the seeds out of our chilies. Now, you want good dark red chilies if possible. The smaller they are, the hotter they'll be. The larger they are, the milder they'll be. But regardless, you want to get the seeds out. Try and avoid any that are like that are too pale, but apart from that, it really doesn't matter. We're just going to snip them open, and this was a tip that David Thompson taught us when we did a month of Thai. I used to use a knife to cut them open, and he showed me that it was much quicker with a pair of scissors. Now most of the seeds will fall out, and then you also want to get rid of the membrane. Resist the urge to get in there with your finger. I've done it before, and you pay the price later because that chili heat builds up. Use a small spoon, a teaspoon, or even better, a coffee spoon if you have one, and just scrape out as much of that membrane. The seeds will just shake out, but the membrane needs a bit of a scrape. And then we're going to pop this into some water for about half an hour to soften. So you don't need to watch me seed chilies. I'll get that done, and then we'll come back and head on with the next step. So after about half an hour, our chilies are nicely rehydrated, and the other good thing is any seeds left over tend to dislodge and are easily separated. Now, whether you want this really hot or just mild, you don't want the heat from the seeds and the membrane, and you get rid of those, and then by soaking the chilies you also get rid of some of the coarsest heat. We're not going to do it because it tastes awful, but if you tasted that soaking water, it would be really quite hot and coarsely hot. So what we're left with is some pleasant fruity heat, and if we want more heat, we're just going to use smaller chilies or more of them. Now, give them a good chop up, because even though you're putting them into the food processor, you want this paste to be as fine as possible. And that's going to happen if everything's fine when it goes in there. So there we are. We've given them a good chop just to help that food processor out. Let's get them in there. Cooking is messy business, isn't it? I don't think there's any way to do it without getting a bit messy. There we go. Now, I've said half a brown onion, and I mean half a brown onion about this size, about 200 to 300 gram onion. If you've got one that's much smaller, you can use the whole thing. But ratios are not too important for a dish like this, but you don't want too much onion compared to the chili. So about half a medium to large brown onion is good. And again, we don't need to chop it up too finely. That chili's getting to me. But we just want to help that little food processor along. So I'm just giving it a bit of a chop there. Toss that in. And the same with our garlic. We'll just get that skin off and give it a bit of a chop up to make sure it mashes up finely. Ooh, onion, chili, it's getting to my throat, it's getting to my eyes. Okay, let me clear up and go and get the blitzer. So we have our chopped up rehydrated chilies, our onion and our garlic in here, and we just need to give it a really good blitz. Now the finer the paste at this stage, the better our sambal's going to be. So give it a few scrapes down and take your time to get that paste nice and fine. There we go. That is nice and fine, just the way I want it. Now we're going to heat up some oil in our saucepan and then fry this paste off. Let's go to the stove. Now we're working on a low heat because the chili will burn quite easily. So just give that oil a minute or two to heat up and then in with our paste. And we're going to cook this for 15 to 20 minutes on a low heat. For the first 10 minutes or so, it's not going to need much attention, but then we're going to find it starts to stick and we're going to need to stir it a lot more often. The sticking we want, that's a good sign, but we're going to keep stirring it to make sure it doesn't stay stuck. Let's just give that about 10 minutes, checking it every few minutes, but not disturbing it too much to start with. So after about 5 or 6 minutes, you can see it's just starting to stick. But as we give it a stir, all of that sticky bit comes off. And that's what we want. So just giving it a stir every few minutes at this stage and letting it cook away. Now after about 10 or 12 minutes, you can smell that it's starting to caramelize. And you'll see that it's starting to stick more. That's okay because we can still loosen it by giving it a good scrape. But now you're going to need to stir a little more regularly. So we're doing two things. We're caramelizing the sugars in the chili and garlic and onion, and we're also evaporating some of the moisture because something like this is designed to preserve these ingredients. Now that's been about 17 to 18 minutes, and it's even starting to sound different, which tells me that most of the liquid, most of the water has been boiled off. Hopefully you can see the oil is starting to come out too. That's always a good sign when we're making a paste. And basically as soon as I stir it, it sticks again. And that's another good indicator. If in doubt, cook it for longer rather than less. I always say 15 to 18 minutes at this stage. So long as you're stirring it, it's not going to burn and you've got it on a low heat. But I think that's ready. It sounds ready. It certainly smells ready. So now in with our salt and sugar, in with our tomato paste, and we're going to cook it for another 5 minutes just to caramelize some of that tomato paste. Again, keep stirring often because at this stage there's not a lot of moisture left and it will burn if you don't stir it. So that's been 5 minutes with regular stirring. You can see the oil started to separate again. It's sticking, but once we give it a good stir, all of those stuck bits loosen. So we haven't done any harm. Now, turn the heat off, add the tamarind. We don't want to cook that tamarind because then we'll lose those lovely bright sour notes. Let's just stir that in. And then we can decant this and use it as a condiment or as an ingredient. So here we have it, our beautiful fried chili paste, Sambal Goreng. Cool it down, cover it, and that's beautiful. It smells, I wish you could smell it, but you will smell it when you cook it. It's great alongside everything. Enjoy Sambal Goreng.